What are the best picks from every round of your Dynasty startup drafts? We're talking about that in today's video. As always, give us a like and subscribe. We put out content, Dynasty and Redraft, all year long. And I think we're going to be doing a 500 subscriber giveaway. So when we get close to that 500 subscriber number, I'll let you know how to enter. I think we're about 95 away. So much appreciated if you would subscribe. And it's Dynasty startup season, in my opinion. For a lot of people, your rookie drafts have come to an end. Most people do them in May. It's currently May 28th. So we're going to be focusing a little bit more. Our content's going to be a little bit more focused on Dynasty Startup. It's Dynasty Startup season. Now, whether you are entering your first Dynasty League and you have a Dynasty Startup draft coming up, or whether you're a degenerate and you're adding your 20th league and you have a Dynasty Startup draft coming up, I think this video will help you. Now, what I have for you today is not a mock draft. This is actually current ADP. So you'll see, for example, this is for Superflex, by the way. You'll see like Team 6 doesn't have a quarterback. Obviously, that would never happen, especially in a Superflex league, right? This is just current ADP. So don't look at the teams. And we're going to go through each round, starting from round 2. And I'm going to highlight one player that I think is the best value pick in each round. Now, this is this ADP is provided from the South Harmon guys. I'll leave the link to the Google Doc in the spreadsheet in the description of this video, so you can check that out and check out South Harmon. They put out a lot of awesome content. And I believe this is a compilation of over 1,800 mock drafts as of May 27th. So keep that in mind if you're watching this in August. Now, real quick, I said we're just talking about rounds 2 through 12. Not going to be talking about round 1, but I do want to just highlight a couple things. And, there's no bad pick in round 1. These guys are all studs. There's no bad pick really in the first few rounds, but all of them are good players. But I do think it's interesting, as you can see here, 5 quarterbacks go off the board, which is standard. And we have 3 straight receivers. Just think that's interesting. I still think I would take guys like Joe Burrow, maybe Caleb Williams, Anthony Richardson over guys like, these receivers. I think, honestly, for sure, Burrow. I think 6 quarterbacks should be the first 6 picks should be quarterbacks before the first receiver goes off the board. But again, we're talking about studs like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. I'm not gonna complain too much and say you shouldn't be taking Justin Jefferson at the 106. So starting in round 2, my favorite pick in round 2 is actually where you can currently get him at the 209, according to current ADP, is Kyler Murray. And again, this is Superflex, guys. This is Superflex, not one quarterback. Kyler Murray at the 209 to me is a fantastic pick. I absolutely love it. Just for reference, he's the QB 11 going off the board. And I don't completely understand. I mean, I kind of understand, but I also just think it's incredible value. But we're talking about a 27, he'll be 27 this season, a 27-year-old quarterback who is under contract. And I don't think they can really get out of it, right? It's a fully guaranteed contract that he signed. So he's going to be on this team for a couple more years at the very least. I'm just double checking his cut. Yeah, he's going to be on this team for 4 more years, most likely, if he stays healthy. And here's Kyler Murray's finishes since entering the league. 2019, as a rookie, he finishes the QB7. 2020, I think that was the first year of DeAndre Hopkins, a stud receiver. He was the QB2. 2021, he finishes the QB10, but he missed, I believe, 3 games, and he was actually QB4 in points per game. 2022, he played in 10 games, essentially, and he averaged 20.7 points per game. That was good for top 5. Now, he missed a lot of time, 6-7 games that year, but in the 10 games that he did play, he averaged 20.7 points per game. That was top 5. And then last year, I don't think a lot of people realize this, he was QB9 in points per game coming off an ACL injury. That means Kyler Murray, in his 5 years in the league, has been a top 10 quarterback in either total points or points per game every single year, including 3 times in the top 7, which I think is top 7 is where you're getting into the elite territory. And he's being taken as the QB 11. The QB 11, that's incredible value that you can get him in the mid to late second round in a Superflex league. Incredible value. And the key to Kyler Murray is that he runs the ball. He averages 37 yards rushing per game in his career and about almost a half a touchdown per game in his career. And even last year, coming off the ACL injury, his numbers were down a little bit, but he still ran for 30.5 yards per game and a touchdown, about a third of a touchdown every game. So a touchdown every 3 games. He just added in the draft. They just added maybe the best wide receiver prospect we ever seen in Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think about 2020 when Kyler Murray had a prime DeAndre Hopkins and he was the QB2. That's what I compare, him having Marvin Harrison Jr. On top of that, he has Trey McBride. On top of that, he has a guy like Michael Wilson who has some potential. Greg Dortch. 2 good running backs in James Conner and Trey Benson. Both can catch the ball. So I just think it's an incredible value to get Kyler Murray in the mid to late second round. So if you're sitting there at the 209, 208, 210, even as high as the 26, 27, and you need a quarterback or you want to double up and get your QB2 and you get Kyler Murray, I think you're sitting pretty. The key to winning Superflex Dynasty leagues is 2 quarterbacks, having 2 stud quarterbacks in a 12-team league, of course. Moving along into round 3, I have another quarterback for you. My favorite, the best value pick, in my opinion, my favorite pick in round 3 is actually Dak Prescott. It's Dak Prescott, who's currently going at the 309. And again, for reference, that's the QB 15. The QB 15. Here's Dak's numbers since entering the league. 2016, he was QB 6. 2017, he was QB 11. 2018, QB 10. 2019, QB 2. 2020 was the year he got hurt, but he was the QB 1 in points per game. The first 5-6 weeks, he was having a monster year. He was going to finish top 10, most likely. 2021, QB 7. 2022, QB 6, week 7 through 18. Remember, he got hurt week 1, missed 5-6 weeks. When he came back, week 7 to 18, he was the QB 6, and then last year was the QB 3. We're literally talking about a player since 2019 who has been top 7 in either total points or points per game at the quarterback position. Top 7. That includes 3 times in the top 3 guys. 3 of the last 5 years, he's been a top 3 quarterback. That's insane that he's going QB 15, and I don't really understand why. I know people don't like Prescott as much, cowboy, blah, blah, blah. I know he's going to be 31. 31 is young for a quarterback. He could still easily give you 3-4 years. And the biggest mistake Dynasty players make is they think beyond 2 or 3 years in Dynasty. So much changes in the NFL that you can't think beyond 2 or 3 years. You really can't. You really, really can't. So Dak Prescott, he's going to be 31. He just had a really, really good year, led the league in passing touches last year. And he does it without really running the ball, or you don't need to worry about, injuries, getting, running the ball. He hasn't had 250 yards rushing over the last, or more. He's had less than 250 yards rushing in like 3 or 4 straight seasons. So he doesn't get his points through rushing the ball. So I just think it's incredible value to get Dak at the 309. Round 4. My favorite value pick is Jalen Waddle at the 402. Jalen Waddle, who I think at one point, I want to say he was a top 5 receiver. Now, I know things happen. Rookies come in, that push you down, that pushes you down and things like that. Like, that's just the ebbs and flows of Dynasty. I get it. But you look at one point, he was as high as, I think, wide receiver 3 is what I'm seeing. He was as high as wide receiver 3. In this current ADP, he's going as the wide receiver 15. Again, I get it. I'm not saying necessarily he should be going over Rome Odunze or Brandon Ayuk. I'm not necessarily saying. I just think it's really good value to get Jalen Waddle at the 402. His 2023 pace, I don't think a lot of people realize this because, we generally think, Waddle had a bad year last year. That's just kind of like, not bad, but he wasn't Jalen Waddle. And that's true. He was wide receiver 34 overall. I believe that was much better in points per game. Wide receiver 23 in points per game. His 2023 pace was similar-ish to his 2022 year where he finished, I believe, as the wide receiver 7. Wide receiver 7. He was on pace for 87 catches, 1,231 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's still only 25 years old. Here are the players that have, in their first 3 years in the NFL, that have had 250 receptions and over 3,000 yards. At least 250 receptions and 3,000 yards. Justin Jefferson, there's only been 10 guys. Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham, AJ Green, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Thomas, CeeDee Lamb, Anquan Bolden, Jarvis Landry, and Jalen Waddle. That's it. Those are all studs, with the exception of Jarvis Landry, right? He wasn't a stud. He was a nice player, but he wasn't a stud. All those guys were like top 5 receivers at one point, maybe even the best wide receiver at one point during that span during their careers. So Jalen Waddle was hurt a lot last year. He was on the injury report 5 times, and that doesn't even include the 3 games he missed. So technically 8 times he was on the injury report, basically half the games last year. I think he was a lot more beat up than we realized. And I think we're going to potentially have a bounce back season. This Miami offense, they didn't really add anyone in the passing game. They added Malik Washington, who's, a rookie, but he was drafted in the 6th round. It's going to run through Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And there's the huge upside if Tyreek Hill gets hurt. It's going to be Jalen Waddle. So I just think it's really good value to get him at the 402. On to round 5, I have Mr. Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews at the 511. Now, part of this, in my opinion, is not necessarily I think he should be going higher, but it's how many tight ends go before him and how early you have to take those other tight ends. I'm talking about, we're talking about the 403 versus the 511 Trey McBride to Mark Andrews, or the 212 to the 511 Andrews versus Laporta, the 409. Yeah, I just think getting Andrews that much later than guys like Laporta and McBride and Kincaid and Bowers. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be better than those guys. Again, I know it's Dynasty. I think this is another situation where people are putting too much value into the year and age, how old you are argument. He's going to be 29 years old. This is going to be his age 29 season. He turns 29 September 6th, Mark Andrews. So he's up there in age, but we're watching Travis Kelce just be a beast, and he's like 34 years old. Tony Gonzalez was a beast, and he was like 37 years old. Tight ends can go. Tight ends can go a lot longer than running backs, wide receivers. They can. And here's Mark Andrews' finish since he basically became the starter for the Ravens. 2019, tight end 4. 2020, tight end 5. 2021, tight end 1. 2022, tight end 4. Last year, again, this is another player that I don't think you realize just how good he was. Last year, Mark Andrews was the tight end 4 in points per game. He missed a lot of time with the injury, but he was tight end 4 in points per game. He averaged 0.2 points less per game than Laporta in half PPR. He averaged 11.3 half PPR points, Mark Andrews. Laporta had 11.5. And if you take out the game where Mark Andrews left, he played 11% of the snaps, the game he got hurt and was out for the season. If you take that game out, he was actually tight end 1 in points per game, 12.2 half PPR points per game. 12.2 half PPR. That was better than Laporta, better than Kelce, better than McBride, better than all those guys. Mark Andrews is still really, really good. He's the focal point of this offense, right? They didn't bring in any receiver. I mean, they drafted like Devontae Walker in the 4th or 5th round, right? I know Isaiah Likely's there. Mark Andrews is the focal point. He could lead this team very easily in targets. Very, very easily. I'd put my money on him leading the team in targets, to be honest. So I just think part of it is I really like Mark Andrews and think he's still very good. But the other part of it is just the difference in discrepancy. I'll much rather take the combination of AJ Brown and Mark Andrews than I would like Laporta and DK Metcalf. Give me AJ Brown and Mark Andrews any day. That's how I'm thinking about this, right? That's how I'm thinking about this. So Mark Andrews, think it's incredible value at the end of the 5th round. Incredible value. And that's not even talking about tight end premium leagues. Round 6, pretty simple here. It's a rookie. It's Jonathan Brooks. As you can see here, Jonathan Brooks is going at the 608. And that is, just double checking that for you, that is the RB15, which is fair for Jonathan. I just think it's really good value. You're getting the best rookie running back in a lot of people's opinions. The best rookie running back. He was the highest drafted. Would he get top 40 or 45 draft cap? Definitely top 50 draft capital. He goes to a team, the Carolina Panthers, who have Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, right? Miles Sanders just lost out to Chuba Hubbard last year. I'm not worried about Miles Sanders. He literally just lost out to him. Chuba Hubbard, nice player. He's a backup. He should be a backup. He can come in for a few games if it's hard to get. He's not a difference maker at the running back. He should be a backup. And it's a new coaching staff, and they took their guy. They traded up to take their guy. Jonathan Brooks is the starter for the Panthers. It's not going to be a 50-50 split, maybe the first couple games. The biggest thing is he's coming off the ACL injury. If he didn't tear his ACL in November, he would have been the clear-cut number one pick, number one running back in this draft class. Clear-cut. The dude can be an all-around stud. Pass catching, right? Pass catching, rushing the ball, obviously. Sorry, I'm just looking up his college stats. He had 25 catches, which is actually pretty good for a college running back. So Jonathan Brooks, and then I think of Dave Canales, right? Okay, Dave Canales. What did he just do with Rachaad White? What did Dave Canales just do with the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers with Rachaad White? Well, Rachaad White was RB7 last year. Jonathan Brooks is probably much better than Rachaad White. So I just think it's crazy good value to get him here. I would take Jonathan Brooks over guys like, a guy like Pacheco and potentially guys like James Cook, just for the potential and the youth and the draft capital. So round 7, another pretty easy one here, in my opinion. Now, I know there's some stuff around this player, but it's Rashee Rice at the 706. Really, really love Rashee Rice. Obviously, I shouldn't say I really love him. I've been a little bit lower on him than other people in terms of where he should be post 2023 rookie season. But now I'm higher on him than most people because everyone's afraid of the suspensions, and I get it. We could be seeing a big suspension. He's going to pay for the sins of others, maybe potentially. But at the same time, he could only be suspended for it. We've seen NFL players do a lot of stupid shit before and not get suspended, as much as we think they should get suspended. And even if he is suspended 6-8 games, this is Dynasty, right? It's not redraft, it's Dynasty. So we're looking at a guy who is awesome with Patrick Mahomes. I know they brought in Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy, but those guys kind of complement Rashee Rice a little bit. I don't think Rashee Rice's role is going to change at all. He's going to get touchdowns. He's going to be good after the catch, right? He's just going to be a solid player. And you just look at where he's fallen compared to the other rookies from last year in like Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison. He's going almost 2 full rounds later than Zay Flowers. He had a better season than Zay Flowers in terms of the dominant stretch that he had. Going, around later than Jordan Addison, right? So, this, I kind of, if he wasn't going to be under the suspension, he'd be going in the 5th round. So you're getting like 2-round value, in my opinion, and I'll take that in Dynasty. I'll take that in Dynasty very, very easily. Round 8. Round 8 is Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp at the 806. As you can see here. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Can I zoom in a little bit? There you go. Hopefully you can see that. Cooper Kupp at the 806 is my pick for the 8th round, my favorite pick in the 8th round. And if you just look at where he's going compared to the other kind of old crusty players, right? The retirement home players, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, they're going a full round before him. Cooper Kupp, and I think it's a big mistake for making in redraft football, just like, Puka is the guy. It's Puka Nacua. No one else. It has to be Puka Nacua. I think it's a big mistake, and I'm actually going to move myself up here now that we're into these lower rounds. I think it's a big mistake that we're making, just assuming that Cooper Kupp's not still the alpha receiver for the Rams. Now, is he going to get 1,800 yards and then win the Triple Crown? No, that's not going to happen. Can he lead this team in targets, receptions, touchdowns, and yards? Absolutely. And we're not valuing him that way. We're not. And I think it's a mistake. We're in the range now where you're taking these guys and you're looking 1 to 2 years. Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson. You're not looking beyond 2024 with those guys. Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper. You're not really comfortably looking beyond 2024 with these guys. Give me Cooper Kupp over a guy like, Terry McLaurin, who he did go over in this ADP. But any day of the week, like I know McLaurin, he's probably going to give me a top 24 season. Cooper Kupp could be a top 5 receiver this year, and I wouldn't be surprised. Here's his numbers. Again, I think this is going to surprise some people. In weeks 5 through 9, he missed the first 4 weeks, Cooper Kupp. In weeks 5 through 9, he was the wide receiver 14 in total points. Then he got hurt, right? He missed, I think he played 25% of the snaps in week 6 or, their next game. And he spent 2 weeks on the injury report where he just did nothing, essentially. He was definitely hurt. He was playing 80%, 70% of the snaps, but he was definitely hurt. And then week 14, he was off the injury report. So again, weeks 5 through 9, he gets he's wide receiver 14. Week 10, he gets hurt. Week 11 and 12, or there's a bye week in there, or 12 and 13, I don't know which ones, but the next 2 weeks, for their 2 games, he's on the injury report. Week 14, he's off the injury report. Weeks 14 through 17, he was the wide receiver 7. In weeks, the last 14, 15, the last 4 weeks of the season, he was wide receiver 6 in total points. That means in those, what are we looking at? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, 15, 16, 17. In those 9 games that he played and was fully healthy, he averaged 13.6 half PPR points per game. That was good for wide receiver 12. He was on pace for, if you take those 9 games, 153 targets, 93 catches, 1,264 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp still has it. I'm telling you, he still has it. He still has it. I'm not super worried. I know he's getting up there in age. He is, I just typed in Cooper and I got age 40. Cooper Kupp is going to be 31 here in a couple weeks. Yeah, I get it. He could still put up one big season and one really good season. He's in the perfect offensive system to do it. He doesn't win with athleticism and speed necessarily. He's just a really good, savvy route runner. Give me Cooper Kupp every day of the week. Even if you're not trying to contend, you can trade him and get good value. Give me Cooper Kupp at the 806. I'll happily take Cooper Kupp. Round 9. A couple more rookies here. I actually have a 2-for-1 here. It's Ricky Pearsall and Xavier Legette. I just think it's kind of funny with like the difference between the other first-round receivers in Xavier Worthy and Brian Thomas. We're talking about like 3 full rounds, 3.5 for Xavier Worthy. People forget that Legette and I think it's Legette. He wants his name pronounced. I forget. It's not Legette. He wants it pronounced another way, but I don't know what it is. Legette and Pearsall were both first-round picks. They're going 3 to 3.5 rounds later than the other first-round picks, Worthy and Thomas. They're going 2 rounds later than the other guys like Keon Coleman and Ladd McConkey. 3 rounds for Ladd McConkey. I just think that's a little crazy. Yeah, Ricky Pearsall, year 1, probably not going to do too much if Deebo Samuel and Ayuk stay healthy, but what about 2025? He could be the best wide receiver for the 49ers. Legette has one of the highest ceilings in this entire draft class. Besides like the top 3 guys in Marvin Harrison, Odunze, and Neighbors, Legette has the highest ceiling potentially out of any of the other receivers. Now, he's the lowest floor in my opinion, but he's still a first-round receiver, so I just think it's a little crazy, the discrepancy between, these McConkey, Keon Coleman guys and Worthy and Brian Thomas and Pearsall and Legette. I'll take that value there for sure. 3 more rounds for you. Round 10. Round 10, I have Calvin Ridley at the 10-3. Calvin Ridley at the 10-3. You see him down here. Again, just think that's really, really good value for a guy like Calvin Ridley. I was out on the Calvin Ridley train last year when he was going like round 3 in redraft. I'm not sure where he was in Dynasty startup, but in redraft, he was going in like round 3. And I was basically out on him. I actually did take him on a team, but begrudgingly. But I was kind of out on him because I was like, dude, this guy was away from football for almost 2 years. Expect a slow start. Expect, is he really just going to come back and beat Calvin Ridley of, 2020 when he was awesome? I don't think so. And that kind of played out that way, but still, he was a top 20 receiver. He's wide receiver 20 last year, put up over, almost 1,100 yards, I believe. He was top 15 in total targets, so he was still getting open. Him and Trevor Lawrence were just off, in my opinion. They were just off. wide receiver 17 in total points. So he was still a low-end wide receiver too. Was top 15 in targets. So I think only 15 players, or 15 or 20 players had 130 or more targets last year, and Calvin Ridley was one of them. And from week 11 on, we expected a slow start from Ridley. Now, he had an awesome first game, but we expected kind of a slow start from Ridley. From week 11 on, which is a pretty good sample size, we're talking about 11 to 18. Pretty good sample size. He was wide receiver 7. Go back and look at those numbers. He was wide receiver 7 from week 11 to 18, which I don't think a lot of people would not guess that. He was wide receiver 7. So I just think that's really good value. He has a year under his belt of playing. He is probably the best receiver in Tennessee. Probably. I mean, maybe Hopkins is, but it's him and Hopkins really, and then you have Tyler Boyd there. So I think he could have a similar season of just like being a top 20 receiver, and he's being drafted as the wide receiver 44. So I know he's up there in age and all of that. He just got paid too. So I can see a couple more seasons of him just being a top 20 receiver. And I don't think we're valuing him there. Round 11 for me is Justin Fields. I'm choosing Justin Fields. I wanted to choose Jameson Williams, but I'm choosing Justin Fields. I think there's a very good chance Justin Fields starts more games than Russell Wilson in 2024. I think there's a very good chance. I just do. I think the Steelers are the perfect team to kind of they'll give him an opportunity, right? They'll build around him and they don't care if he's running. They just want to win games. And he's kind of one of those quarterbacks, maybe he can just win you games if you have the team around him, right? And we know if Justin Fields is starting, he's super valuable. I mean, just look at his 2022 season, right? Justin Fields' 2022 season. He's the QB 6. He missed 3 games. He averaged 20.5 points per game. That was good for QB 5. And he threw for 2,000 and something yards? What did he throw for? He threw for 2,200 yards and 17 touchdowns because he ran for almost 1,300 yards or over 30. He ran for a ridiculous amount of yards. And that's what he does. I think there's a very good chance. We're acting like he is backing up Peyton Manning in 2013 or Tom Brady. He's not backing up. He's backing up Russell Wilson, who could just be cooked. He could just be gone, no good. Russell Wilson. We're acting like, again, that he's, backing up prime whoever Hall of Fame quarterback. He's not. He's not. He hasn't looked good the last 2 years. There's a good chance they get off to a slow start or they don't win games. He's not a difference maker at the quarterback position. Now, is there a chance that they just do well with Russell Wilson and they roll with him, even though he's not necessarily playing? Of course. I think Justin Fields is going to get a shot somewhere else. He's going to get one more year or a majority of a year as a starting quarterback. And maybe that's it. But that's value here. At the 11th round in a startup, I'll take potentially one more year as a top 10 quarterback in a super flex league here. I will. I'll do it. And there's the possibility that, he gets multiple years. And then last one for me, round 12, is Jahan Dotson. I've always been kind of a Jahan Dotson guy. It's funny, from day one, everyone's kind of people have hated on Jahan Dotson. He was a first round pick. He was 16th overall, I believe. Not just first round. He was 16th overall. And he wasn't valued that way in Dynasty rookie drafts. Guys like Christian Watson, Sky Moore were going over him. But Jahan Dotson was the top. He was the 16th overall pick. He flashed his rookie year, scoring touchdowns and looked good. Also played injured or got injured. And my argument here is that there's still potential, right? There's still potential. And look at a couple other receivers who have maybe flashed or shown a little bit, but have been relative disappointments from that same draft class. In Christian Watson going at the 10-6 and Jameson Williams at the 11-5. What is the difference? Tell me, honestly, in the comments, whatever, tell me. What is the difference between Christian Watson and Jahan Dotson? Watson had maybe a slightly better, Christian Watson had a slightly better season in 2022. Slightly better. But they both kind of with the same narrative, right? first round receivers or high draft. I know Watson was the second round, high draft capital receivers who have flashed a little bit, but have been overall disappointments the first 2 years. Why is Christian Watson going 2 rounds earlier, over 2 rounds earlier than Jahan Dotson? I'm not saying Christian Watson shouldn't be going where he's going. I'm just arguing that Jahan Dotson is very comparable to Christian Watson. Why is he going over 2 rounds later? I'll take the value there. They're both kind of crapshoots. They're both kind of unlikely to be studs. Jameson Williams is another one. He's flashed even less than Watson and Dotson. Yet he's going a whole round, again, almost a round and a half earlier than Jahan Dotson. Is the 11.5. I just don't understand that. So that's my logic with Jahan Dotson. So there you have it, guys. Those are my favorite value picks in rounds 2 through 12 of your Dynasty Superflex startup leagues. Let me know what you think, agree or disagree in the comments. I love going back and forth. Give us a like and subscribe. We'll be back looking at my least favorite picks from rounds 2 through 12. So give us a like and subscribe. Catch you guys in the next video.